Maven is a DevOps build tool that is chiefly used for Java-based projects. It helps in getting the right Java files for each project. Hi guys, welcome to this complete Maven tutorial by Simplilearn. In this tutorial, we will be covering all the major topics related to Maven. We have Anuj with us to take us through all these critical concepts and several hands-on demos throughout the video course. So let's have a look at all the topics we will be covering today. We will begin with understanding why do we use Maven. Then we will see the basics of Maven. Then we shall see the process of installing Maven on Windows, Ubuntu and Mac. We shall understand several basic concepts of Maven and the Maven lifecycle. Next we shall have a look at all the advantages of Maven, and finally we will have a look at the top Maven interview questions. These Maven interview questions will help us understand the structure of the questions that could be asked in a Maven interview. So without any further ado, let's get started. But before we begin, make sure you have subscribed to our YouTube channel and don't forget to click on the bell icon so you never miss an update from Simplilearn.
Now we will be talking about that how exactly we can make use of Maven here in performing various kind of operations, whether it's a build, compilation, various kind of stuff there. So let's talk about it, why exactly we use Maven here. Now Maven is something which is a kind of a build tool which is there for most of the Java-based projects here. So this tool also helps us in building up the source code by downloading some couple of dependencies. These dependencies are something which is being configured by the developers, which a developer feels that the project is dependent on and he requires those dependencies to be downloaded. So this tool is specifically used to build and manage any kind of a Java-based project, whatever the complexity of the topic or the project is there. So this tool will be able to handle that particular requirement or that project. So it simplifies the day-to-day work of a Java developer and helps them in their projects for performing daily-to-daily activities. Right now, Maven also helps us in getting the specific jar files for each and every project. So if you are you can pretty much make a jar file, var file or ER file, any kind of a package mechanism you can follow for your Maven there. So to download the dependencies, we don't have to actually go to the official website of each and every software. You can easily get it, the dependencies of each and every third-party binaries on the mavenrepository.com. This is a website which is present, on which if you visit, you will be able to download the dependencies which is required by your project or by your specific project over here. So it totally depends on how exactly you want to download and you want to get together a specific repository over here. So mavenrepository.com is the one. If you visit, you will be able to download and go through all the jar files, dependent jar files as in dependencies which you require for your current project. Right, so now what exactly is a Maven all about? So let's see on that part. So Maven is a popular open source build tool which is developed by the Apache group, and the primary ownership of this tool is to build, publish and deploy several projects at once. Maven is written in Java and it can be used to build projects written in C#, Scala, Ruby, etc. So apart from Java, these are the different programming languages or the tools which is supported by the Maven here for performing the build activity. So the tool is used for build and management of any kind of a Java-based project. It simplifies the day-to-day work of a Java developer and helps them to automate most of the compilation or build perspective tasks on the projects. Right. Now Maven is a kind of a BOM-based project, so it also known as a project object model, and it focuses on simplification and standardization of the building process. In the process, it takes care of all the followings here: builds, dependencies, reports, distribution, releases, mailing list. So all these things are being taken care as in this particular process here, and ultimately it's an ability inside the Maven that how the overall build process needs to be automated and standardized here. So all these particular mechanisms can be followed as such over here, so that we can have a good standards and the simplifications implemented as such here. Now in this one we are going to talk about that how we can work on Maven installation on Windows and Ubuntu platform here. So first of all, we'll do it on the Windows platform here, and we'll see that how the installation really works. So for this one, I will be doing the installation into my local system. Now before even going for Maven is a kind of a build tool which is available there, primarily for performing any kind of build automation for the Java based projects. Now since it's used for Java, we also require the JDK installation onto our system. So for that, both of the installations we will be covering over here, and we'll see that how the installation really works as such over here. Right, so before even going for Maven, we have to install the JDK onto our Windows machine so that we can proceed with Maven, because Maven requires the JDK installations to be there. Now there are two ways of JDK installation. Either you go for the exe file, or you extract the binaries of JDK to a directory and then set up the java_home path for that. But if you are using the executable, that will perform the path configurations for you also. So in that case, you don't have to reconfigure it again and again. So that's what we are going to see here. So first of all, we will try to do the installation of JDK. So for that, we'll go to the website of JDK, and then we have to click on this one to access the Maven installations part here. So that's what we are going to do. So let's proceed, and let's open the Chrome and try to go through these two URLs so that we can do the installations one by one. So here I have to just search for JDK 8 download. So it will show me the URL for oracle.com. So here you will get the JDK for the different platforms, for different operating systems. Now here what you can see here that you have the configurations in which you have the JDK installation. So we have to So here I'll go for the Windows 64 version, because that is something I will be using to do the installation. So this is the complete executable link. So here you can download. So we are downloading the SDK U251. So just search for Windows 64. Yeah, this is the one. So let me click on this one. Let me quickly log into the web page. So once the login is done, you will be able to see that it's trying to download the exe file. So that was for the JDK, for the Java. Now for the Maven, I am going to go for the Maven download over here. So in this one, the Maven repo link is there. maven.apache.org is the link for this one. Now here we have the different options. You can see here that the binary zip archive is there, then source zip archive is there. So depending on the installation which you want to perform, you should be able to download that file and it works there. So let's first install the JDK portion, and then we'll go with this one. So we'll click on this one also anyways, because it's something we have to anyways do it. So we'll click on this so that this Maven is also getting started downloading over here. So once both of them are downloaded, we will proceed further with the setup. So let's wait for another 1 minute to do this one. So the Apache Maven is kind of downloaded over here. So we wait for the JDK download also over here. So next 5-10 seconds only left out. So first JDK will be there, and then Maven installation configurations will be there. So for Maven, we just have to extract into a directory and give the MVN home path into the properties, into the variables, so that it can pick it up over there. Okay, so we have to extract the zip file for Maven, give the path, and then we will check with the Maven command whether it's working fine or not. So let's try to install the executable. So we'll open the directory where the executables are there. So first of all, we'll install the JDK. So we'll double click the installer for JDK. It's of around 200 MB. So the complete JDK will be installed. So we have to just go for next. Now when you go with the installer, so usually the Java home paths and all that stuff is already configured. So you don't really have to change the passwords or Java home, any kind of variable you have to put it up. All those things will be automatically cleaned up. So it's running the installation. Close. So then we have to extract the Maven. So we have to extract this directory, because here the Maven complete executables and libraries are there. So we just have to extract it and place into a directory so that we can further on use it and access the path. So once the access is done, yep, so this is done there. So I can rename it to like Maven. So I can rename it like to as Maven, and I can cut it down and put it into the C drive here. Now this is the Maven home path which is going to be there, right? So all I have to do is that I have to close this one and this one and this one and this. So what we have to do is that we have to really go to the system properties so that we can extract it. So I'm going to open the system properties over here. Properties. Now here the advanced system settings. Now in this one we will be setting up the paths. So environment variable will go. Now here if you scroll down, you will see all the different paths which is available there as such over here. Now if we want to see that if the Java is fine or we require for JDK also, so all we have to do is that we have to open the CMD prompt. Window R we are providing. So using the window R, I'm opening the run window where I can say like CMD. Now in this CMD I'm going to say like Java -version. So Java is there, so which means that we don't have any problem as such. Now I'll just go here and set up a new one called Maven_home. So here the same path. So you can browse for directory also, but I am using the Maven home over here in this one. Now I have just added that, and in the path variable in the last we have to actually add the bin directory also, so that whenever we run the mvn command, so that should also be resolved. So mvn_home is not the only variable which you will be configuring. In fact, you will be configuring the path variable also, that you can go ahead and put up a new directory entry for the cmd here. So cmd till the cmd directory, you will go there, and whatever the executable is there, you should be able to resolve that. So for that, again you have to open the window R, CMD prompt, Java-version, and then you can run mvn-version here. When you run the mvn-version, it will let you know that which particular Java runtime you are using, 1.8.0_251. That's the same one which we have configured. And it also let us know that where exactly the executable is there, and we can now proceed further with the execution of the Maven build. So you just have to check out your source code or go to that directory where source code is there, and you can run the mvn clean install. So that will ultimately go for the build process. So this is the way that how we can do the installation of Maven on the Windows platform. Now since this is done, now we will go ahead with the second installation, where we are going to do the installation of Maven and JDK onto the Ubuntu machine. So for that we will log into the particular cloud lab of Simplilearn LMS. So let's log into the LMS here. So now we are going to do the installation of JDK and Maven on the Ubuntu virtual machine here. So for that we will log into the LMS. So let's log into that. So this is the LMS over here. Here I have already started the lab here. So all I have to do is that I have to just click on this link here. So it will open the lab into a new tab. It's a GUI mode of Ubuntu server, so which we will be using to configure it. So here first of all, I can open the Chrome browser also. So let me open the browser here so that I can download the Maven executables as such over here. So JDK, we can do it using the package installation. So using the apt executable, we will be doing the installation. So I have to just open the terminal here. So once the terminal is opened, you have to log in through the root ID. Now why we require root ID? So that we should be able to do the package installations and other configurations. So that requires root access. Now once that is done, you have to run the particular app update command. Next you have to install the installer. So the Oracle installer we have to install. Now once the setup is done, so let's install the latest package over here for Oracle-Java 14-installation. So this will install the JDK 14 over here. So for that configurations. Now at the same time we'll go for Maven download also. So here we'll go for download Maven. So this is the tar file for executable. So I'm going to copy this URL here, and over here we'll say yes. So now the Java should be configured and should be set up over here in this one. So what we really need to do is that we need to run the Java command to see that if the installation is done properly or not. So let's open the terminal again, another terminal, so that I can perform the steps related to Maven. So I have got the URL, so I'm going to the opt directory, which is always an optional directory where we can do the setup and all those configurations. So I'm going to run the wget command and then the URL which I have downloaded. So this should download the tar file over here of Maven. Now once that is done, so I have to extract it. So tar-xvzf and the tar file name, this is a tar gunzip file, so I have to use tar-xvzf parameter over here to extract it. Now what exactly I have got the Apache Maven directory over here, so I'm going to rename it. In order to rename it, what we need to do, we need to actually go for the particular move command. So move whatever the existing folder you have, and then I'm going to rename it with the Maven directory. Now once that is done, I'm going to the Maven directory, and this is the path or Maven_home path which is available as such over here in this one. So here all the bin directories, executables, all this stuff is there. So now I can use it like mvn_home and the same configuration just like we did in the Windows. So here also the same process we have to follow. So Java version should be let me know that which version is deployed. So 14.01 version is deployed over here. So for Java, I don't have to set up the path again here because I'm using for the installer, so I don't have to set up the path, right? So for Maven, now what exactly I have to do, I have to go to the etc profile D. Now here I'm going to put up a particular file. Now here you can see that we have the JDK file here, which means that the path variables and everything is configured as such over here. So you can see that Java_home, path, all these variables are copied here. So I'm going to also create a same file similar to this one here, but in this case what I'm going to use it that I'm going to remove some of the values. So I'm going to have some of the parameters added. So in order to do it effectively, I can do the echo command so that I can copy the things from here and I can simply put it up into the file here. So I'm going to have the path variable added up over here. Now why I'm putting up the paths, because it's the same configuration which we did over there also. So opt/maven/bin. So all the bin directories should be added to the specific path variable. So I'm just trying to create a file called maven.sh. Just like a jdk.sh over here, I'm also creating similar kind of file over here called maven.sh. Now I'm not going in the VI mode or other editors because I just want to make you understand that how I'm copying the content. I'm taking the jdk.sh as a reference and putting up the details over here in this one. And then I'm going to export mvn_home over here, which is related to like opt/maven. So this is what we are going to put up over here, and then Maven. In the end, Maven, this is the file which you should be having. Now why we are using it? Because of the fact that it's being used, or it will be utilized in such a way that you can perform the changes or whatever configurations you want to perform. This will help you to set up the certain paths like path and mvn home so that you can run these scripts as such over here. So I'm going to give the executable permissions to this one, and that's it. So now what exactly I have to do is that I have to do the source here, profile.d maven. Once that is done, I will be able to run the mvn-version over here, and the JDK part is already open, so it's going to refer to that part. So this is the way that how we configure the Maven and the JDK specifically on the Ubuntu virtual machine. So pretty much that's it for this demo. In this demo, we primarily talked about that how we can do the installation of JDK and Maven on Windows, and how we can do the similar task on the Maven on the Ubuntu virtual machine also here. Hello everyone, welcome to this demo. In this demo, we are going to talk about how exactly we can do the installation of Maven on the Mac operating system. So here we are going to talk about how we can do for a specific setup where we can do for the installation of Maven in a Mac operating system. So let's see. So there are two ways of doing the installation here. First is through the brew executable on the Mac. Now this brew utility on Mac is just like apt or yum utility which is present in most of the environments or most of the platforms here, but here we are using this brew to do the installation of Maven on the Mac operating system. And again, So next one is just a particular mechanism where you should be able to have the setup, like you can download the binaries from the Apache website, and then you can export the m2_home and the path variable so that you can start using the Maven executable. So we'll talk about these things, and we'll see that how exactly we can go for this setup. So let's log in to a particular machine or Mac operating system, so where we will be able to do all this activity. So this is the Mac system which we have here. Now in this one, what we are going to do is that we are going to open the terminal. So we are going to open a terminal here. So this is my terminal. So usually in Mac, you don't require any other mechanism. So the inbuilt terminal is more than sufficient for doing this stuff because it's similar to a Linux based platform here. So I'm going to run the command here. So first of all, I'll just double check that if my brew executable is working fine. So I'll just run the brew help command to see that if my brew is working fine as such over here in this one. Now I have the command called brew install. So that is a command which we need to use. Now in this one, we have to actually give the specific package which we want to install. So we will say like brew install Maven. So it will download the specific executables on the system. From the website, it will download the Maven executables. So it will take some time, but ultimately it's trying to download it and the particular tar file. So you can see here that it's downloading 3.6.3 tar file over here. So I can see that the installation is done. So the 3.6.3 version should be installed over here. So when I do like Maven mvn under hyphen version over here, so you can see that the 3.6.3 version is deployed as such over here. Now this is something which is done with a purely command over here called brew, which really helps us to do any kind of package installations. Not only Maven, other packages also can be installed pretty much with the help of this executable. Now, in order to see the manual stuff, what we really need to do is that we need to actually clean this specific installation so that I will be able to show you the manual installation also over here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to run the command called brew uninstall Maven so that the Maven should be removed from your system. So we are just trying to remove the Maven from here, and you can see that the Maven executable is not working as such over here. So which means that the Maven is uninstalled in this case. But why I have uninstalled here? So that I should be able to go ahead and download some custom Maven over here in this one. So I have opened the browser here. So I'll go for the Maven executable. So we'll go for Maven download so that we should be able to download a specific the executable here. So I'm going for this directory. So here 3.6.3 version same is available here. So I'm going to download the bin.tar.gz, which was the file we have. So this is also a kind of a Linux platform, right? So that's the reason why here the tar file should work perfectly fine. So here I'm going to the opt directory where we can have all the optionals related packages. So if it is not there, so I can create a directory called /opt. So I can log in with root. So if you don't have the root access, so you can go for the applications. In the applications, you can actually create a directory called Maven. So here I can go for Maven. Yeah. So here we will be downloading the var file here. So the tar.gunzip file we are downloading over here. So I'll give the path here. So once the var file or wget command I am using to do the installation, but sometimes the wget is not available. So I can go for the brew install wget also. If that package is available on brew, the installation will be done. So we'll try to do the installation using wget so that we will be able to get a tar file generated or downloaded. There are other ways also. You can download it from the browser also. Yeah, you can go to the browser and here you can actually click and download it, and then you can transfer it locally to this specific directory also. So both the possibilities are there, but I'm just trying to download the wget command so that it will be easy for me to do the setup and to do the download over here. So I'm going to run the same command again. So it will download the tar file. So this is the tar file which is available over here. So I'm going to extract it over here. So once the extraction is done, so I'm going to rename it like to Apache Maven. so that I should not have any kind of versioning or these kind of parameters over here. And the apache.maven hyphen this tar file I'm trying to remove as such over here. So this is what I have got as an end result over here. Now this is the current directory in which I have these applications and these setups going forward over here. So if I run the mvn hyphen version command, so that will not be giving me any kind of output over here, because still I have extracted the tar file, but that is not, the activity is not complete. I have to exactly set up some environment variables so that I should be able to run this mvn command. So what I really need to do over here is that we have to export certain variables. Application slash maven Apache Maven. So this is the home directory which I'm trying to configure over here. And then next thing is that path variable. So I'm going to have, we are going to coordinate the path variable with the folder. So I'm going to have the folder structure here. So the bin directory we have to provide. So I'm going to copy here and paste, and then I'm concatenate it with the bin here. So now my environment variables are established. So my mvn hyphen version command, as you can see here, is that it's being picked up over here, but it's saying that the particular Java runtime is not available. So I can go for Java brew install Java. So that should be enough there to install a Java package there. So you can see that it says that it's already installed, so and up to date. So that's the reason why it's not able to do the installation. So I'm going to reinstall OpenJDK. Because what happens that when we do the installation, some environment variables related to Java should be formatted or should be extracted over here, right? So as you can see that here it's saying that if you want to really use the executable of Java, you have to concatenate the path like this. So let's run that, and then we can see that the particular executable of Java will also be find out over here. So Java hyphen version showing that yes, it's available there. And now my command should be able to show me that yes, it's working fine. The JDK was already installed, but the problem with that is that since it's installed into a particular location, so you have to actually override your path value so that you should be able to see in that directory and find out the Java executable. So that I have got by doing the deinstallation. I got the command over there in the output saying that this is the installation which is done, and now you just have to extract, or you have to just put that path directory into the specified path variable, and that's how you got the Maven and Java both command lines working over here. So this is how you will be doing the Maven installations all together, how the overall installation of Maven and the JDK really works on Mac operating system. Now what exactly is a Maven repository all about? So Maven repository is something which is a kind of a directory, or it's kind of a location where we have all the jar files packaged all together in a single location. So depending on the software which you want to download, the dependent jar files can be downloaded from there. So the metadata refers to the POM files relevant to each project here. This metadata is what allows Maven to download the dependencies. Now there are three types of repositories from where we can download the dependencies. The first one is the local repository, second one is the remote repository, and the third one is the central repository. So these are the primary three types of repositories which is available there for a specific Maven over here. So whatever repository you want to follow, you want to access, you can pretty much access it and you can go with that. Right now, the local repository will be primarily present onto your PC. That's the way that how it's present there. And the particular remote repository is something which you can store on any remote machine or remote server. And the central repository is something which you can have it onto the internet. So usually the central repositories is something in which we can actually host our different kind of dependencies and the jar files over there. So local repository on the machine of the developer where the project material is saved. So all the particular dependencies jar file will be available on your local machine. Remote machine is the location where you can actually store all your particular dependencies, from where you can download these dependencies whenever you require it. So this repositories work similar to the central repository. Whenever anything is needed from the remote repository, it's first downloaded into your local repository and then it will be utilized. So if you feel that the dependency is something which is not there in the local, it will be first downloaded from the remote repository and then it will be utilized or will be referenced onto the local machine there. And central repository refers to the Maven community repository there, where you will be able to see each and every dependency present on that repository. So Maven downloads the repositories from here in the local repository whenever they're needed or whenever required. All these dependencies are cached locally, from where it will be referenced in the next, or whenever we want to refer that, we will be able to do that particular reference easily on that part. So this is the way that how the three particular repositories or Maven repositories really helps us for performing various kind of automations as such here. Right, now what are the basic concepts of Maven here? So some of the couple of basic concepts which is present in Maven is, like, for the first time we have the project object model. So project POM refers to the XML file which has all the information regarding the project, how this particular project should be built up, how the different build process should be automated there. It also has a description of the project, details regarding the versioning information is also stored as such in this XML file, in this particular POM reference file as such over here. The XML file is which is there in the project home directory. So Maven is something which search for the POM file in the current directory. If it's able to find that particular POM file, so it will execute or it will proceed with the build step, otherwise it will halt there itself. So this POM file is very important because it will act as a kind of a build script, and primarily the Maven tool will be able to process each and everything which is configured as such in this specific XML file there, and according to that only it will function or it will proceed further. Right, now second thing is the dependencies and repositories. So dependencies usually refers to the jar files, so the Java libraries which we need into our particular project. So while working on the project, we may be having the dependency on couple of dependencies. So these dependencies we have to actually download or we have to actually refer, and once these particular information or these details are referred, so what will happen that we need to download these specific dependencies from the particular Maven repositories. So if the dependencies are not present in your local repository, then Maven will try to download it from the central repository and cache it into your local repository. But first of all, it will look on into the local repository, and if it is not present in local, then only it will go to the remote or the central repository. Then we have build life cycles and phase and goals there. So build life cycles consists of the sequence of build phases, and each build phase consists of sequence of goals here. Now each goal is responsible for performing a specific task. When a phase is running all the goals related to that phase, and its plugins are also used to performing the compilation, preparing the artifacts, downloading the dependencies, all different things being done by the plugins here. Then we have the build profiles. So build profiles refers to a set of configuration values. Now generally we have the generic build process for all the environments or all the particular code base there, but sometimes we do have some kind of a differences there. So that is where we can go for the profiles, because a specific profile can have its own configuration, and whatever it's required for the build process, we can have different configurations stored inside the Maven build script here. Then different build profiles are added to the POM files, and which enables the different build as such here. So depending on these profiles, we can actually decide that how we need to proceed with the build process and how the different kind of build automations needs to be performed here. Then a build profile helps in customizing the build for the different environments, so that also we can perform as such while performing or while working on the different components and the different management here. So a build profile is something which you can configure, you can utilize, and depending on that build profile, we will be deciding whether to proceed further or how to decide on that particular factor. So these are something which we need to take care, or we need to work according to which we can decide that how the specific configurations and specific automation needs to be performed here. Now usually when we go for the Maven there, so we have to use some couple of Maven plugins. Now the goal of using these specific plugins is to automate some of the basic stuff like compilation, creating the var file, creating the jar file. So when we are using the plugins, we don't have to configure the steps or write the steps that how these specific plugins should be installed or should be referenced. It's ultimately the internal configurations which we are looking forward or which we are using while working on these specific plugins. So you can download some couple of plugins using which we will be able to decide that how a specific goals needs to be achieved here. So Maven has its own standard plugins that can be utilized. So if want to go for a custom one, so you can do that, but pretty much you can go for the default one, and you can pretty much have some specific goals executed with the help of these build plugins. Now next thing is the Maven architecture. So in Maven, what happens that let's talk about the basic architecture of Maven here. So the Maven executable, when it's deployed, so it usually reads the pom.xml file, which is the build script here. Now once the specific pom.xml file is being read out, so it will process the components. It will download, or it will process the dependencies, plugins, life cycles, phases and goals, and even the build profiles. And if any kind of interaction is required, so it will try to connect to the central repository or a remote repository, and according to that it will provide the information and provide the details as such. So Maven repository is something which is very important because it's ultimately trying to connect to the Maven repository and try to achieve the various kind of automation here. So it's very important because ultimately it's trying to help us to go for the complete end-to-end build automation when we'll go for a specific POM based build automation. So Maven executable will read the pom.xml file, then download the dependencies defined into the pom.xml file, and that dependencies are cached locally from the remote or the central repository. Now then create and generate a remote report according to the requirement and execute the life cycles, phases, goals, plugins, etc. So it will process the pom.xml file there, and whatever the plugins and goals or the life cycles which is configured there, step by step each of them will be executed into a sequence here. Now let's talk about the overall build lifecycle of the Maven here. So what happens that the Maven build lifecycle is something which is a kind of a collection of different steps there, and this is something which is followed to perform a build automation for a specific project. So that there are pretty much 3 steps which is being done. So first one is the default, so it handles the project deployment there. Second, handles the project cleaning, which is a clean there, and then we have site, so it handles the creation of the project sites documentation there. So these are the 3 built-in particular life cycles which is available there at the Maven level, which you can utilize to perform a various kind of particular steps execution for your project. Right, so the build cycle has the different build phases or stages there, because when we are performing a build, a variety of things needs to be performed over here. So the first one is the compile, then test compile is there. So compilation is there for the source file, and test compile is there for the test cases. Test will execute the test cases, package will package the bundle, then we have the integration test to run the integration test cases, then we have the verify, then install goal is there, and the last one is the deploy, which is there to deploy the artifacts to the artifact tree. So all these things are the different phases and the stages which is being followed as per a specific build here. So during these builds, these are the different phases and the stages which we normally follow for performing the build automation. Now what is the exactly advantage of a specific Maven here? So that is something which we need to talk about, that how the particular automation needs to be done, or how we can actually go for the configurations where we feel that yes, we want to perform or we want to take certain benefits out of the implementation of Maven here. So for that, what happens that we have to see that the various kind of benefits. The first one is that Apache Maven helps manage all the processes there, such as building, documentation, releasing, and distribution in project management here. So the tool simplifies the process of project building. It increases the performance of the project and the building process altogether. And the task of downloading jar files and other dependencies is also done automatically. We don't have to indulge in any kind of download part as such manually over here. right? And Maven provides easy access to all the required information. So Maven makes it easy for a specific developer to build a project in the different environments. So we don't have to worry about the environment, we don't have to worry about the infrastructure, nothing is required. Everything is available there inside this package. And depending on the particular, you can write the source code on one machine and you can pretty much do the build on another machine. And this is the reason how the build automation really happens on the first place, because the developer is writing the source code in one location and the same code is deployed onto the particular, or built onto this Jenkins or any kind of build tool there. Right, in Maven you can easily add new dependencies. So you must write the particular dependencies in the POM file. So if you feel that you want to download some particular dependencies, so all you have to do is that you have to put that dependency into the specific pom.xml file there, and depending on that, the execution will be really performed and executed as such here. Right, so let's talk about the demo now. So let's see that how exactly we can go for this demo and we can perform the various kind of automations. So this is the virtual machine which we have here, on which the Maven is already installed. So we can run like mvn. So Maven will be available as in 3.6.3 here. Now I'm going to run a particular command called mvn archetype generate here. Let me create a directory here, a temp directory, and to perform this activity over there. So mvn archetype generate. Now once we run that, so what will happen, that it will download some of the binaries there, because ultimately what we are trying to do is that we are trying to generate a new project, like a Maven project. So a couple of particular plugins will be downloaded by the Maven executable so that it can achieve that particular execution. So we just have to wait for downloading all these values. Now here it's trying to give us a particular attributes, like it's asking the different attributes over here. So what exactly we want to configure. So if you want to configure, you can provide that details, otherwise you can perform or whatever the setup you want to perform. Now here it's asking for the version, so which kind of version we want to follow. So I'm going to follow like 5 here, so I'll press 5. Then a group ID which is there, so it's basically a kind of a group mechanism, so I can say like com.Simplilearn. So that's a value which I'm providing here. Artifact ID, I can make it like a sample project or something like that. I can do, so that will be the artifact ID which is there. So version I am keeping the same only. So and yeah, so package same here. So I just want to create, so I'll just provide the value called yes and enter. So with this, what will happen, that a sample project will be created here, right? So whatever the artifact ID you provided, so according to that, the project is created in this directory. So you have to go into this directory and see that what exactly the files are created there. So you have the pom.xml file. Now this pom.xml file, when I open, so you can see here that there are some attributes, like you can have the values related to what version or group ID you want to follow. So this is the group ID, this is the artifact ID. So this is jar file. By default you can change it according to your requirement, and this is the version. And if you feel that you want to do the changes to the name, that also you can perform here. So by default the JUnit dependency is added, but if you want to keep on adding your own custom dependencies, you will be able to do that. Now in this case, if you run like mvn clean install, so it will be considered as a particular Maven project. A pom.xml file is already there present in the local directory. So according to that, the execution of the steps will be performed, and according to that, you will be able to get some desired values here. So ultimately in the target directory, you will be able to see that some couple of jar file or a specific jar file is generated here. So you can see that in the target directory, this jar file or this artifact is generated here. So this is a way that how we can actually go for a generic one, like a new particular project, and later on you can, depending on your understanding, you can keep on adding or you can keep on modifying the dependencies, and that's how you can get the final result there. So that's it for this demo, in which we have find out that how exactly we can go for a particular project preparation with the help of mvn executable. Welcome everyone to this topic, in which we are going to talk about that what exactly is the different Maven interview questions here. Now in this one we are going to talk about what are the different questions, some couple of questions we are going to go through, and we'll try to understand that what exactly the answers are. Now let's talk about the first question over here. So what exactly is in Maven here? So Maven is nothing but a kind of a popular open source build tool which is available there. Now before Maven, there were a couple of build tools which was present, like Ant, and a lot of other legacy tools was present there. But after that, Maven is something which was released as an open source tool, and it really helps the organization to automate some couple of build processes, and have some particular mechanisms like build, publish, and deploys of different projects at once itself. So it's a very powerful tool which can really help us to do the build automations. We can integrate them with the other tools like Jenkins, and we can automate them, we can schedule the builds. So a lot of various advantages we can get with the help of this tool here. It's primarily written in Java, and it can be used to build up various other kind of projects also, like C#, Scala, Ruby, etc. So all these other typical tools can also be built up with the help of this tool. So this tool is primarily used to do the particular development and management of the artifacts in the Java based projects. So for most of the Java based projects nowadays, this is the default tool, and it's already integrated with the Eclipse also. So when you go for a new Maven project, automatically it will be created for a Java project. You can use it for other languages also, but yes, default choice of Java, of the Java programming language, is Maven build tool only. Now let's talk about the next question. So what does the Maven help with? So Apache Maven helps to manage all the processes such as build process, documentation, release process, distribution, deployment, preparing the artifacts. So all these tasks is being primarily taken care by the Apache Maven. So this tool simplifies the process of project building. It also increases the performance of the project and the overall building process. So all these things are something which is being taken care by the specific Maven tool here. So it also uses the particular it downloads the jar files of the different dependencies. For example, if your source code is dependent on some of the Apache web service jar files, or some of the other third-party jar files, in that case you don't have to download those jar files and keep in some repository or keep it in some lib directory. You just have to mention that dependency in the Maven, and that jar file will be downloaded during the build process and will be cached locally. So that's the biggest advantage which we get with Maven, that you don't have to take care of all these dependencies anywhere into your source code system. So Maven provides easy access to all the required information. It helps the developer to build the projects, and without even worrying about the dependencies, processes, or different environments, or different, because it's an kind of tool which can be used in any platform, Linux or Windows. So they don't have to do any kind of conversions. So all they have to do is that they have to just add new dependencies, and that should be updated into the POM file, and depending on that dependencies, the source code will be built up, and they don't have to refer any kind of third-party jar files. So they don't have to play with the class paths during the build process. So no customizations is actually required with this one. Now the next question is that what are the different elements that Maven take care of? So there are different kind of elements which is being taken care by Maven. So these particular elements are builds, dependencies, reports, distribution, releases, and mailing list. So these are the typical different elements which is being taken care by the Maven during the build process and during the preparation of the builds here. So all these things you can they can explore, they can extract on that part, and they can fully understand that how they can work on all these different processes. Now next question is that what is the primary difference between the Ant and Maven? First of all, both of them are primarily used for the Java-based project. So Ant is the older version, and Maven is something which was launched after the Ant here. So Ant has no formal conventions which can be coded into the build.xml file there. But yes, the Maven has conventions, so information is not required as such in the pom.xml file there. So Ant is procedural, whereas Maven is declarative over here. So Ant does not have any kind of life cycle, so it depends on you that how you program the Ant there. But Maven is having a lot of life cycles there which we can configure, we can utilize. So the Ant related scripts are not reusable because you cannot reuse it, and you have to do some kind of customizations in order to work on that. But yes, Maven is not having much of the project related any kind of dependencies. They can be easily reusable there because there is nothing about the pom.xml file. It's just the artifact name and the dependencies, which is something we can override or we can change, and then the same pom.xml file we can reuse as such for the new project also. So that is where the reusability comes into the picture. Now Ant is a very specific build tool, so we don't have to, there is no plugins as such which is available there. You just have to code everything that what build process you want to prepare. Whereas in case of Maven, we have the concept of plugins, which can really help us to understand that how we can make use of these plugins so that we can have the reusability implemented. So these are some of the differences which is available there between the Ant and Maven here. Now next thing is that what exactly is in POM file all about. So POM file is nothing but it's kind of a XML file which is available there, and it's having all the information regarding the project and the configuration details. So it primarily used over here that how the configuration needs to be done and how the setup should be performed as such here. So pom.xml file is the build script which we prepare. You can prepare it using a particular component, or you can have a particular mechanisms, or if you feel that you want to have some kind of setup. So all these things typically can be implemented, can be done with the help of build tools. So build tools can be really helpful for us to do the automations, and it can really help us to understand that how some build processes we can automate with simply with the help of pom.xml file here. So the developers usually put up everything inside these dependencies in the pom.xml file here. So this is the file which is usually present in the home directory, it's in the current directory, so that once the build is triggered, it will be picked up from that directory, and according to the steps, according to the content of the pom.xml file, the build will be processed or will be created here. Now what all included into the POM file here? So the different components which is included into the pom.xml file here is the dependencies, developers and contributors, plugins, plugin configuration, and resources. So these are the typical components which is a part of a pom.xml file, which can be same for a lot of projects. You can do some customization, and then the same POM file can be reused for the other projects also. Now what are the minimum requirement of the elements which is there for a pom.xml file, so without which the pom.xml file will not be validated and will be getting a kind of validation errors. So the minimum required elements are project root, model version, so it should be 4.0.0, the group ID of the project, the artifact ID of the project, and the version of the artifact. These are the minimum things which we want to define so that we can understand that what kind of artifact we are trying to prepare or we are trying to create here. So these are the minimum required elements which is required in the pom.xml file, without which the validation of the POM file will fail and the build will also fail here. Now what exactly is the meant with the term called build tool? So build tool is an essential tool, is a kind of a process for building or compiling the source code here. So it's needed or it's required for the below generated processes. If you want to generate the source code, if you want to compile the source code, you want to generate the source code, you want to generate some documentation from the source code, you want to compile the source code, or you want to package the source code, whether it's a jar file, it's a war file, or it's a ER file. So whatever the packaging mode you want to select, you will be able to do it with the help of the particular build tool here. And if you feel that you want to upload these particular artifacts to the artifact tree, whether it's on remote machine or locally there, so that also you can do it with the help of this particular build tools here. So build tools can be helpful in doing a lot of activities for the developers. Now what are the different steps which is involved to install Maven on Windows? Now all you have to do is that you have to just first of all download the tar file from the Apache Maven repository there. Once that is done, so what happens that you have to set up some couple of environment variables. Now if you download the Java JDK using the exe file, in that case the java_home will be configured automatically. But if it is not available and you're not able to run the Java command line, in that case you have to set up the java_home. And then similarly for Maven, you have to go for the Maven_home. That particular variable you have to configure. Now once that is done, all you have to do is that you have to edit the path variable. So the bin directory of the Maven extracted folder, you have to put it up into the path variable. And once that is done, what will happen that you will be able to check the latest version, the version of the Maven over there. If it is like some old version, again you have to extract the latest version and do the steps all together again. So these are some of the ways that in which you can actually go for the installation or the configurations of Maven on the Windows platform. Now, what are the different steps which is involved for the installation of Maven on Ubuntu? So Ubuntu, it's fine. You just download the package of Java JDK there. Once the JDK is installed over there, what you can do, you can simply go ahead and say that yes, I want to search for a particular Maven package which is available there. So once the JDK is installed, all you have to do is that you have to configure the java_home, m3_home, maven_home, and the path variable. Once all the path variables are something which is configured, then we will be able to check the latest version, like whether it's the version is correct or we are getting the standard version over here or not over here. So that's the main mechanism that how we will be able to configure the Maven on Ubuntu here. Now, what exactly is the command to install the jar into the local repository? Now, sometimes what happens that we are not able to fetch, like some dependency is not present on the particular central repository, Maven repository, or your Artifactory repository. In that case, you have some third-party jar which we want to install locally onto your repository. So in that case, we can go for the but we can download the jar file there, and then we can run the command called mvn install-file, and then we are giving the path like -d file, where the path of the file should be provided. Now once that is done, so what will happen that in the local .m2 directory, the specific artifact will be downloaded and will be installed there. So this is a mechanism where you will be able to configure, or you will be able to set up the artifacts locally, the jar file locally here in the local repository. So next question is that how do you know that the version of the Maven being used here? So the version of the Maven is pretty easy to calculate. So all you have to do is that you have to just go for mvn and space -- version. The moment you do that, it will let you know that what JDK or what Java version you are using, and it will also show you that what particular Maven version you're going to use here. So all that details you will be able to get with that particular command here. Now, what exactly is the clean, default, and site-in variable here? So these are the build cycles which is available there within Maven. So these are the built-in build cycles. So for clean, what happens that this life cycle will help you to perform the project cleaning. So usually during the build, there are some files which is created into the target directory. So the clean life cycle is essentially helping us to clean up all that directory, all that particular target directory. And when we talk about the specific default, so default life cycle handles the project deployment. That is the default life cycle, and site is something which is helpful for creating the site documentation. It's kind of a life cycle which is available there. So clean, default, and site are the different life cycles which can perform different kind of attributes or different tasks here. Next question, what exactly is a Maven repository? So Maven repository refers to the directories of the package jar files that contain metadata. Now the metadata refers to the POM files relevant to each project. So here you can able to get your artifacts stored there. You can download these artifacts also during the Maven build. If you put up that dependency, there are different kind of repositories which is available there. One is the local repository, one is the remote repository, and one is the central repository. So these are the different typical type of repositories which we have, where we can store the artifacts also, and from where we can download the artifacts also whenever required. Now the first one is the local repository. So local repository refers to the machine of the developers itself, where all the project related files are stored there. Now whenever we work on the particular Maven, so there is in the home directory .m2 folder is created. Now usually whatever the artifacts downloaded from Artifactory or from the Maven repository, it gets cached locally there, and once it is downloaded, next time it will not download the same artifacts or the same dependency altogether again. So this local repository is something which is available locally on the developer's machine only. So it contains all the dependent jars which a particular developer is downloading during the Maven build. Now remote repositories refers to the repository which is present on the server, and from where we will be downloading the particular dependencies. So when we are running the Maven build on a fresh machine, so usually over there the local repository does not exist. So in that case, what happens that the .m2 directory is empty. But the moment you run the build, what will happen that the artifacts or the dependencies will be downloaded from the remote repository, and once it is done, once it's downloaded, it will be added or it will be downloaded cached locally there, and it will be helpful in the future run. So that will be considered as a local repository because all the artifacts, all the dependencies are downloaded there. And central repository is something which is known as the Maven community, where all the artifacts is available there. So usually we cache or we mirror these central repositories as our particular remote repositories, because it could be a possibility that these remote repositories are something which we are hosting into our organization, and central repository is something which is available centrally for everyone to use it. So these are something some kind of repositories where each and every artifacts will be stored, and anyone will be able to have the access to these particular artifacts here. So these artifacts are every open source artifacts is something which is available over there to these central repository. Now how does the Maven architecture really work here? So the Maven architecture really works in the 3 steps. The very first step is that it reads the pom.xml file here. That's the very first step. Second, it downloads the dependencies defined in the pom.xml file into the local repository from the central or the remote repository here. Once that is done, so it will create or generate the reports according to the life cycles which you have configured, whether it's a clean, install, cite, deploy, package, or whatever the life cycle you want to trigger. You will be triggering that particular life cycle, and corresponding to that the build or a specific task will be performed. So these are the 3 steps in which the overall build or any kind of execution of pom.xml file really happens here. Now what exactly is the Maven build lifecycle? So Maven lifecycle is nothing but collection of steps here that needs to be followed for doing a proper build of a project here. So there are primarily 3 built-in cycles which is available there. Default, which handles the project deployment; clean, which handles the project cleaning there; and cite, which handles the creation of the project sites documentation. So these are the 3 primary built-in build cycles, life cycles, which is available as such. Now, so build lifecycle has different kind of phases or the stages here, because in the previous particular slide we were talking about what are the different particular build life cycles which is available there. But these are the different phases, like what are the different step-by-step executions, like further deep down, which is available there inside a specific Maven build lifecycle. So here you can see that it's compile, then the test compile, test execution is there, then package, integration test, verify, install, and the lastly deploy here. So these are the different build phases which is available as such over here. So what exactly is the command to use to do a particular Maven site? So mvn site is something which is used to create a Maven site here. Now usually whatever the artifacts is prepared, that will be prepared in the target directory. So here also you will be able to see a site directory which is available there in the target directory, which you can refer for the site documentations. What is the different conventions used while naming a project in Maven? So usually it involves 3 components. So the full name of a project in Maven includes first of all the group ID. For example, com.apache, com.example. So these are some of the particular way that where you can provide the group ID. Artifact ID can be exact project name like Maven project or whatever the project you are creating. So sample project, example project. So these kind of things will be there in the artifact ID. And lastly is the version, like which version of your artifact you want to prepare, like 1.0.0 snapshot, 2.0.0. So like this information you are providing, that what particular version you are trying to configure here. Now let's move on to the intermediate level, where we will be having a little bit more complex questions related to the Maven here. Now what exactly is a Maven artifact? Now usually what happens that when we do a build process, as an end of result of the build process, we will get some artifacts. For example, when we build a .NET project, so there we will be able to have a exe or DLL files as an artifacts. Similarly, in case of Maven, when we do a build process, there we get the different kind of artifacts, like depending on the packaging mode, like jar file, var files, or the ER files here. So these are something which is getting generated during the build process, during the Maven process, and you can store them into your local repository, or you want to push them to the remote repository. It's something that totally depends on you. So Maven is a tool which can help you to create all the artifacts, whether it's a jar file, whether it's a var files, or whether it's a ER file here. And every artifact is having 3 attributes. The first one is the group ID, the artifact ID, and a particular version. And that's how you will be able to identify a full-fledged artifact as such in Maven. So Maven is not about only the name of the jar file. It's actually referring to the attributes like group ID, the artifact ID, and the version of the artifact here. Now, what are the different phases of the clean lifecycle here? So clean is something which is being used to clean the target directory so that a fresh build can be triggered there. So there are 3 steps: pre-clean, clean, and post-clean here. So if you wish that you want to override the particular lifecycle configurations and you want to run some particular steps before the clean activity, so you can do it into the pre-clean, and if you want to do it like some steps after clean, then post-clean can be utilized. Now, what are the different phases of the site lifecycle? So pre-site, site, post-site, and site deploy. So these are the different phases which is available there in the site lifecycle. What is exactly we meant by the Maven plugin? Now, this is the huge difference between the Ant and Maven here, because in Ant we were not having that much support of the plugins, and that's the reason why we had to deal with all the build configurations. So we have to simply put the overall build process, that how the build should be triggered, but that is not something which is there in case of Maven. In Maven we have a lot of flexibility because we can actually put up what exactly build configurations we want to put here. We can put some features like important features over here in Maven, and these plugins we can utilize. For example, I want to perform a compilation. Now, I don't really want to do any kind of configurations in this one. So what I can do is that I can simply use the compilation plugin in Maven, and that can really help me because I don't have to unnecessarily write or rewrite the configuration that how the compilation should be done. It's something which is pre-configured or pre-written in these plugins, that I can simply import the plugin and I can do the build process or the compilation process in a pretty standard mode. So I don't really have to do any kind of workarounds with that, and simply with a small automations I will be able to reach that how these Maven plugins can be integrated into my .xml file, and I can desire or I can have some particular procedures and some steps executed there. So that's the biggest benefit which we really get with the help of Maven plugins. Now, why exactly the Maven plugins are utilized? So to create a jar files, to create the var files, to compile the code files, to perform the unit testing, to create the project documentation, and to create the project reports. So there are a variety of things in which we can actually use these Maven plugins through the integrations within the .xml file there. So it's all about the plugins. You just import the plugin and that desired activity will be performed there. Now, what are the different type of plugins which is there? So you can have either a build projects. For performing the build activities, you can have some build plugins. For reporting plugins also there, which can be only generated or utilized to generate the reports, to process the reports, and do any kind of formatting or any kind of processing on the reports here. So that is where the reporting plugins are utilized. Now, what is exactly the difference between the convention and the configuration in Maven? So convention is in particular process when the developers are not required to create the build processes. So configuration is when the developers are supposed to create the build processes. So the users do not have to rectify the configuration in detail, and once the project is created, it will automatically create a structure. So they must specify every in case of configuration you have to provide each and every details. So that's how the configurations really happens, because you have to put every detail into the .xml file, and that's how the particular configurations really work as such. So this is the huge difference between the conventions and the configurations here. Now, so why exactly is said that Maven uses conventions over the configurations? Maven pretty much does not put any efforts like on the particular developers that they have to put each and every configuration. So there are some ready-made plugins which is available there, and pretty much we are making use of that, so that in such a case we don't have to worry about the executions, and we will be able to pretty much work on that. So conventions, like Maven uses the conventions instead of the configurations, so the developers they don't just have to to create the Maven project, the rest of the particular structure will be taken care automatically. So they are not expecting that the developers should be doing the configuration work, and everything should be taken care in such a way that you just have to start the things and rest of the things should be taken care by the Maven itself. So Maven will be responsible, because due to the plugins, it will be responsible to set up the default architecture, the default folder structures, and all you have to do is that you have to just place the source code in the desired folder structure here. So that's something which you need to do as a particular developers. So what exactly is the Maven order of inheritance here? So the order of inheritance is the settings, CLI parameters, parent POM, and the project POM, which means that if you have some configuration and settings, that will be the highest value, then the CLI parameters are there, then the parent POM is there, and then the project POM. So this is the way that how the particular parameters or the configurations will be picked up by the Maven. So that's the order. So what does the build life cycles and the phases imply in the basic concept of Maven? So build life cycles consist of a sequence of build phases, and each build phase consists of a sequence of goals. When a phase is run, all the goals related to that phase and its plugins are also compiled. So you will be able to have a lot of particular goals which is residing inside of phase there. And similarly, lifecycle is nothing but a kind of a sequence of the different phase. So lifecycle comes in the top, then it comes on the phases, and then it comes on the goals here. Now, what is the terminology called goal in case of Maven? The term terminology goal refers to the specific task that makes it possible for the project to be built and organized. So it's something which we can run. So it's the actual implementation which is going on there. For example, in the build process, in the build phase, I have a different goals like clean, install, package, deploy. These are the different typical goals which is available there, which I can execute into the Maven here. So these are the different goals like which we can execute and which we can run during a Maven build. Next question is, what is exactly meant by the term dependencies and the repositories in Maven here? So dependencies refer to the Java libraries which we usually put up into the pound.xml file there. Now what happens that sometimes our source code is requiring some Java files like a secondary Java files for performing the build process. So instead of downloading it and storing it into the class path for during the build process, we just have to specify the dependency of that artifact, what dependency we need to put, and once that dependency is put up there, we will be able to have that jar file downloaded and cached into the local repository during the Maven build project. Now if the dependencies are not present in your local repository, then Maven will try to download it from the central repository, and again if it is not it's something which is available, which is downloaded from the central repository, then it will be cached locally into the local repository. So that's the cycle which is being implemented and utilized during this process. Now what exactly is a snapshot in Maven? So snapshot refers to the version already available in the Maven report repository. It signifies the latest development copy. That's what we do with the case of snapshot here. So Maven checks for a new version of snapshot in the remote repository for every new build. So during the build process, like a new snapshot version is being downloaded, and the snapshot is updated by the data service team, which with updated source code every time to the repository for each Maven build. So snapshot is something which we will be using like very frequently. We will be updating to that, and frequently we will be updating the version to that, and we will try to explore and we will try to do the modifications. Now what are the different type of projects available in Maven? So there are thousands of Java projects which can be utilized or can be implemented by Maven here. So this helps the as the user that they no longer have to remember every configurations to set up particular project. For example, Spring Boot, Spring MVC, Spring Boot, etc. These are the different projects which is already available in Maven. So most of the we have already discussed that for the Java based projects, Maven is something which is considered as by default. So a lot of organizations are actually using it for storing or utilizing it for the particular Maven project. Now what exactly is the Maven archetype over here? So Maven archetype refers to a Maven plugin that is entitled to create a project structure as per its template. These archetypes are just project templates that are generated by Maven when any new project is created there. So this is something which we are using so that we will be able to create a fresh new projects. Right, so let's go on to the advanced level of this Maven questions. Now what exactly is the command to create a new project based on an archive type. So MVN archetype generate is used to create a new Java project based on the archetype. Now this will take up some parameters from as an end user from you, and depending on that parameters, it will create the pom.xml file, it will create the source directories, inside that main, Java, test, all these different couple of directory structures will be automatically created. Now why we require this command? So that if you are going to create a project from scratch from the day one, this command will help you to have all the folder structures created, and then further on you can put up your source code and those files as such in this folder structure. So that's how is the mechanism that where we will be able to see that how the setup can be performed really over here. Now what does Maven Clean implies? Now Maven Clean is a plugin that suggests that it's going to clean the files and directories there. So whenever we do a build process, usually in the target directory we have some class files, some jar files, or whatever the generated source code which is available, that will be present in the target directory. So the Maven Clean is something which is available, which is going to clean all these directories. And why we are doing this directory structure cleanup? So that we will be able to do a fresh build process, and there should not be any kind of issues as such over here. So that's the main reason why we are looking forward for this particular mechanism, or for this particular changes as such here. Now, so what exactly is a build profile all about? So build profiles refers to the set of configurations where we can have like typically two different kind of build processes there. So if you feel that the same pom.xml file you can you want to run for different particular configurations, so that you will be able to do pretty much with the help of this component. So build profile is used to do a customization processes, so that you will be able to have the process, and you will be able to perform the configurations and the setups all together there. So that's a very important aspect to be considered, that which we need to discuss when we talk about the build profile. So build profile, whenever you feel that you want to do some customizations and you want to proceed with the setup, so that's where it's utilized. Next thing is that what are different type of build profiles which is available there. So the build profiles can be done on for a particular project, like per project you can do. You can even do the build profiles in the settings.xml file also, and if you feel that you want to do it into the global settings.xml file, so that also you can do as such over here. So there are different ways in which you can do the customization, and once the customization is done, you will be able to have the different ways of doing the setups and the configurations over there. So what exactly is meant by the particular system dependencies here? So let's talk about that also. So system dependencies refers to the particular mechanisms where we feel that how the dependencies should be present there. So that is something which is having a scope of system there. So these dependencies are commonly used to help Maven know the dependencies that is being provided by the JDK. System dependencies are mostly used to resolve the dependencies on the artifacts that are provided by the JDK. So these dependencies are somewhat which is being utilized and used over here, so that we will be able to implement and go ahead through the system dependencies. What is the reason for using an optional dependency here? So optional dependencies are used to decrease the transitive burden of some libraries. So what happens that when you download an artifact, when you put up a dependency, so it could be a possibility that some dependencies as in particular optional can also be downloaded. Now these are not always required, but yes, sometimes what happens that these are downloaded so that you don't have to put each and every artifact or dependency into the pom.xml file. For example, you're trying to download some Apache tool, and with that some like 3-4 jar files or 3-4 another dependencies are also getting downloaded. Now if you are using that dependencies, that totally great, because you don't have to put that list or that entry in the dependency list in the pom.xml file, and that can really save your time. But if you feel that you don't want to have them, and these are the optional ones, and you really want to get rid of that, so that also you can exclude while downloading any kind of dependency. So these are the optional ones which, depending on your requirement, you can utilize. You can process. And if you feel that you don't want to get it, you won't want to process it, you can simply ignore it and you can get rid of that also. Now, what is a dependency scope and how many type of dependency scope are there? So there are different type of dependency scopes which is there, which is used on each and every stage of the build here. So compile, provided, runtime, test, system, import. These are the different kind of dependency scopes which we have, using which we can define that when exactly we want to go ahead for a specific build process. So depending on your requirement, you can explore all these build scopes and you can get benefits out of that. What is exactly an transitive dependency in Maven? So Maven avoids the need to find out and specify libraries that our own dependencies require by including the transitive dependencies automatically. So transitive dependencies says that if X depends on Y and Y depends on Z, then X depends on Y and both there. So which means that you are not dependent on one artifact, you also need the Z artifact there with the Y artifact. So that is what you need to do so that you will get both the dependencies there, because this is normal that if you are trying to download some particular artifacts or download some dependency and that dependency is also dependent on some other artifact or some other jar file, then you have to include both of them. So this is something which you will be able to get so that you can easily download all these dependent jar files also, and the Maven build can be success. How can a Maven build profile can be activated? So Maven build profile can be activated through different ways. So explicitly using the command line, you can talk about that which profile you want to execute. Through Maven settings, you can do based on environment parameters, OS settings, and present and missing files. So these are the different ways in which you can actually activate that which particular profile you want to have. So profiles configurations can also be saved in various situations and various files, and from there you will be able to refer that which file you want to refer as such. Now, what is meant by the dependency exclusion? The exclusion is used to exclude any transitive dependency, because you never know that if you are trying to put up a dependency entry in the .xml file, that artifact is also further dependent on another artifact. So in order to see that you want to exclude that dependent artifact which is being automatically downloaded, that also we can exclude with the help of exclusion. So you can avoid the transitive dependency with the help of dependency exclusions here. So what exactly is in Mojo? So Mojo is nothing but Maven plain old Java object here. So it's an executable goal in Maven, and a plugin refer to the distribution of such Mojos. So Mojos enable the Maven to extend its functionality that already is not founded in it. So it's kind of an extension which is there, and using this we can get some additional benefits and some executions over there. So what is the command to create a new project based on a hard drive? So again, archetype is something which we normally use to create the new projects. Now you can give the parameters in the command itself, or you want it to in kind of an interactive mode where it will take the parameters from the end user, and according to that the project will be created onto hard drive or onto server, wherever you wish you want to create. You can create a new project. So explain about the Maven settings.xml file. So Maven settings.xml file contains the elements that are used to define that how the Maven execution should be there. So there are different settings like local, remote, central, all these different repositories are configured as such over here. Now in this case, what happens that usually the configurations are done in such a way that it can go for the executions, it can go for the build process, and the complete executions can be involved and can be achieved as such here. So all these executions are something which we can really perform, and here we can put some credentials, how to connect to the remote repository, how to connect to remote repository. All that stuff is something which we talk about over here. What exactly is meant by term super POM here? So super POM refers to the default POM of Maven. So the POMs of Maven can derive from, so it's nothing but a reference to a parent POM which is available there, that is a super POM. So if you define some dependencies in that super POM, automatically the child POM will also be able to inherit all those dependencies. So we can put some executions, like we can put some configuration in the super POM, so that if multiple projects are going to refer that, they should be able to refer that easily. So that's the reason why we primarily use the super POM, so that we can have the execution, some processes put up over there, and all the other projects should be able to refer or inherit from there. So where exactly the dependencies are stored? So dependencies are stored like in different locations, like you have the local repository, remote repository is there. Local repository is on the local developer's machine, and remote repository is something which is available on a server in form of Artifactory.
And so with this, we have come to the end of this video. I hope you guys find it informative and helpful. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more from Simplilearn.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.